This program is brought to you in part by SalCal Real Estate Connections. Welcome to Race in Action Today, and we're here today with a very special guest with our talk series show, the head coach at the Berlin Red Coats football team, Joe Aresimowicz. And Joe, welcome to the Nutmeg TV. And we've kind of known each other for a while. How you doing,
We
buddy?
have. It's always great to be here with you. I always refer to you as Larry Legend.
I know, I've heard that. I heard you say that. Now tell me, do you remember how we got to know each other?
I do. It was quite a long time ago. I was a young man. I think I was like 9 or 10 years old, and you were coaching youth football. We were the Colts back then.
Midget football, yes.
Yeah, and you were short on players. You came down and watched the practice, and you said, well, clearly this kid doesn't worry about getting hit. Let him come up and play with the big boys.
I'll never forget talking to your dad, Jimmy. I said, you know, I'm kind of concerned. He's a little kid. He said, Larry, he'll stick his nose in anywhere you want to put it. And he was right. He was right.
And usually it got me in trouble around the house. So, you know, now to see it on the football field was actually a good venue for me to do it.
Yeah. So that's where you started playing football naturally at a young age. And, of course, your mom, Mary, was very active in the community affairs. I remember her just like it was yesterday. Very nice person. And I'm sure she's looking down, and Jimmy, smiling today.
I hope they are. Yeah, but they really showed me from a young age to get actively involved in stuff. So I came through the youth football program with your help and enjoyed it. In the end, my mom ended up starting a cheerleading program, the first cheerleading program we had in the town of Berlin. And my father ran the concession for many years. Chili was his big addition to the menu.
Yeah.
So,
and, you know, I have to say this. Coaching, it's in your blood. You don't leave easy. That I'll tell you.
Yeah, I mean, like you, though, when you were around us, you enjoyed it, and it brought a smile to your face, and that's what it does every day with me.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I mean, that's the other question I have for you. How did you become coach? How did you get into this? Because you have a very distinguished political background, but how did you become a coach?
So, similar path of my parents, right? My son turned 8 years old in the town of Berlin. He expressed an interest in playing football, so I signed him up. And I heard there was a meeting to talk about coaching staffs, and another Berlin High alumni and legend, Rick DeGroff, was the head coach. And I just said, hey, Mr. DeGroff, can I come help? Learned a lot from him, and now 26 years later, I'm still doing it, but now I get to do it at the high school level. So, I was almost 20 years at the youth level.
Was Berlin your first high school job?
I've never coached anywhere but Berlin.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was down at the youth level. I was an assistant coach, a head coach. I became the football director. Coach Capodice then asked me if I wanted to come on and help with the freshman and JV program.
Yep.
So I was there for a few years, and the opportunity came up for the head coach. I went for it.
Oh, wow. You know, I have to tell you, over the years, my coaching evolved into two sports, actually football and baseball, which, you know, I've been doing that for, actually, I think I probably would still be doing if it wasn't for COVID.
Yeah.
COVID stopped me. That was the end for baseball. And, you know, and I have grandkids that are involved. And I can't tell you, Joe, how me and my wife, Carol, love coming to the games. And believe me, you had to be a free spirit this year. We must have sat through between varsity and junior varsity, 5 or 6 games where it rained. I mean, literally rained.
It wasn't a little bit of rain either. It was a lot of rain. And then our final game up in Rockville, it felt like it was 20 below.
Oh, man, was it cold that night?
It was.
And the craziest thing, we get to the game. My wife, I forgot my coat home. Now what?
Yeah.
I said, you know what? Thank God we brought these blankets. We'll wrap you up in the blankets, and we'll be fine. It was cold that night, though. Oh, my dear.
Next time, let me know. I always have extra sweatshirts and coats in my coaching bag. Yeah, I try to plan for everything.
Yeah, we enjoyed coming to the game so much. And what I noticed was, a lot of times, Joe, when we were on the road, with your teams, we would outnumber the hometown people.
I think that's what makes Berlin football so special. I mean, you were a very good player in your day in the early 60s, but it's always been about the community. I remember as a little kid, even when I was playing youth football, I would go up on Saturday. That's when they used to play the games on Saturday afternoon.
Yes, yes.
And the little kids like me were off on the other field playing, but we're at the game. The parents were there. That hasn't changed. We're really lucky to have that.
We are. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we were literally outnumber the home team we're playing away. You know?
And I look up there and I see parents that had kids in the program 10 years ago. They're still coming.
Yeah.
You know, Mark Holmes, his son graduated 4 years ago. He was essentially our general manager for the last 5 years because he just loves the kids and loves the program.
Oh, yeah, you could tell. I mean, and I got to know Jake, too. Wonderful kid.
Yes, very good kid.
You know, we actually went to see him play, you know, but when they would play like Wesleyan and...
Yeah.
Great kid, I'll tell you.
Great kid, and sticking with a college program for all 4 years is very hard.
Oh,
and
it's not easy.
He made the 4 years, and he just graduated.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be moving down to Tampa. I think he's got a job in Tampa.
Well, he'll do whatever he does, he'll be fine at it, let me tell you. Now, the other question I have, you know, coaching high school, this game has kind of evolved a little. I mean, it's not a simple, we're going to run jet sweep today, or...
Yeah.
Is it?
No, it's really changed. You think back to Coach Pellegrinelli, who in my mind was one of the greatest coaches of all time, and we did the, you know, the buck and the belly, and you know, but things have changed. You have to be well balanced. You have to mix it up. You got to come out in the spread formation, but you got to be able to run the ball too.
Oh yeah.
And the coaches are getting better with Huddle now coming in. Huddle's the program we use to watch tape. The opponents know what you're going to do from week to week, so you almost have to make little alterations.
Now, so in reality, I want people to realize you actually get to see what that team played the week before.
We can actually pull the film through the Huddle system that they have. We can pull the film for every game they played up to the game they're playing with us.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, so it's helpful. It's helpful for the coaches as we design the game plan. I think it's incredibly helpful for the players.
Yes.
You know, you can only explain it so many times. For them to see it in what we call lay eyes on it,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
it's extremely beneficial.
And Joe, I have to say, you've had some wonderful kids. I mean, not only players, but I'm talking about personable kids that, I mean, you go there, hi, how you doing? And shake your hand.
Yeah.
Never a bad word. You know what I mean?
And I think when I interviewed for the job, I told them, if you want that screaming, yelling football coach, you got the wrong guy. I'm about, not only I'm very competitive, as you know. I want to win football games. I want to win every game we play. But it's also about challenging these young men and women. We have a woman on the team now.
Yeah.
To become better people, how to work hard, how to persevere, how to overcome obstacles, and more importantly, how to be a valued member of the community and what that looks like.
Well, there's something that Coach P had taught me, Berlin pride.
Yep.
And believe me, he was the guy.
Yeah.
Berlin pride.
Yeah.
And that it exists today.
It does. And we tell the kids it's a privilege to put that B on the side of your helmet because you're representing everybody that came before you, and you have to hold that standard.
Yes, yes. I have to say you're doing an outstanding job. And now tell me something. With high school football being a little more complex today, I mean, do you think this is going to a different level at some point, or?
It's hard. You know, we talk as a coaching staff about the amount of hours we put in. And there's really no break. In the off season, we start a week from now, after the holiday, we'll be in the weight room. The weight room will carry us up to early spring. Those that aren't playing other sports will be in passing leagues. We'll be doing skill work as it pertains to non-football related, agility, strength, and all of that.
Yes.
Then the spring comes and you're doing the passing leagues, you're going out to the camps, and then it's full go in August. And once we start in the middle of August, the coaches and I have all figured out our hours. It's a 40-plus hour work week.
Oh, yeah, it's not a simple affair. That I'll tell you.
So at some point, the discussion's going to have to be had, should a head coach be a full-time position? In other states, they do. I don't know if Connecticut's there yet.
Yeah, well, they are, speaking of making changes, I was very surprised to learn that when a team wins the state championship game, they get bumped up a class.
Well, it's a little bit more nuanced, but yes, if you were to make the semifinals or the finals 2 consecutive years, you're supposed to move up a couple classes.
Oh, wow.
And you know, for us, we're a medium-sized school, Class M school. We went up one other time, and we lost in the very first round of the playoffs to Maloney. I guess we can compete with them at certain times, but it's hard when the numbers, they're 2 platooning, and we're putting the same 11 to 15 kids out there.
Yeah, they have 2 different teams, the defense and offense. And, you know, then I also heard that they want to change who's going to be able to play in the playoffs. They want to make more teams is that good or bad? I don't know.
I think for the opportunities, it's good, but it has to be balanced. You don't want, so what we have now is we have 6 divisions with the top 8 teams making it. Mm-hmm. Before that, we had 4 divisions with the top 8 teams. But if you go back, even before that, it was 4 teams from each division. Before that, it was 2 teams from each division.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Football's hard. You don't want to look at a kid and say, I'm sorry, you had an 8-2 year, but you don't get to go to the playoffs. But you want to try to keep the competitive balance, and I think that's where the rub has been. They talked about taking the technical schools out and putting them in their own division because they typically make the playoffs, but they come in and they most likely lose in the first round because of the competitive imbalance.
The other thing that shocked me was one of the teams that we were possibly going to play was that 5 different schools.
Yes.
Is that, I mean, how does that, how do you do that?
It makes it more difficult. If you remember back, I think it was 2020 or 2019, we played St. Joe's. Great team. The score showed how good of a team they were. We lost 70-something to like 18. But if you look at their enrollment, they had kids from at least 15 towns in Connecticut, and then a couple from out of states. This year, St. Joe's was back into our bracket. Yeah. Last year, we lost to Notre Dame West Haven, which again
same thing
is the same thing. So it makes it hard. So even when we're putting a good product out on the field and our kids are playing really well, there are certain instances to where the bracket just doesn't line up to help you.
Yeah, well, you know, but they do work on this every year. They have meetings and they're always changing something, right?
Yeah, they are. One of the proposals this year, and I'm actually on the committee, so we'll look at it in January, is to do your schedule. So they'd get rid of the leagues. Like if you go back, I think it was the Nutmeg conference back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And then we moved over to the CCC. What they're saying is for football, get rid of the conferences altogether and just have Class M schools play Class M schools, Class Double M play Double M. Mm-hmm. The only downside with that is you lose some of that continuity of being part of a conference.
Yes.
And then the travel. We went down to Bunnell this year. There happened to be an accident in Stratford. There was an accident on 95. It took us almost 3 hours to get the kids back home.
I remember.
Yeah. So you don't want to make it impossible for these kids too. They're giving up so much of their time. Travel is an issue.
Yeah, so, I mean, you have to find a happy medium there, and it's not going to be easy. You know, in my day, was actually the Northwest Conference.
Yep.
And that was, you know, all the teams from the Northwest. It was interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to look at the audience and just tell them he's very reserved about the type of player he was. He was a very, very good football player, one of the best in the state, and also a very good baseball player. And I've heard this from people who played against you.
My dear.
That's why I call you Larry Legend.
Well, we certainly want to thank you for those. You know, I mean, I was very fortunate to play with some kids that were very good, let me tell you.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, you hear that, but let me tell you, the team was good. It was a whole team effort.
That's what it always is. You know, I tell people football is different than any other sports. I love other sports. I watch them all.
Yeah.
But football is the purest team sport because it requires all 11 people to do exactly what they're supposed to do on every play for it to have the best success.
Absolutely.
And that's hard.
You know, last night was a good example. You know, with Philadelphia playing, you would have thought they would just roll over that team, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, and the Cowboys went into Buffalo, and they got beat pretty bad too.
They got beat pretty bad too, and Now, the other question I kind of have, when it comes to college coaching, I mean, do they start out usually at a lower division before they move up?
Yeah, there's a lot of paths, and it's a tough life. The college coach job itself, it is your life. It's not just a job. And we have one of our former players, Jack Cooper, who's on that coaching carousel, if you will. So they come from all sorts of ways. Some of them work their way up from the high school programs to a smaller college program and go from there. Others, you know, they played in college and they came back as a grad assistant, got their coaching bones, if you will,
Yep.
and then have moved up through the process. It's a really mixed bag, but it is a very tough life.
Oh, yeah, it's not as simple.
No, a lot of times sleeping on a blow-up mattress in an office.
Yeah, that's right. And I got to ask you, though, do you have any inspiration to do something like this?
No, I think that's a little beyond me. I just, you know, I have a job, I have a family,
Yep.
really important to me, and I do it really to be around the kids. I love the game of football, I love all aspects about it, but for me, it's getting out there with the kids. You see me on Saturday mornings.
Sure.
I may be the varsity head coach, but I coach the JV team
Well, me
just
too.
as hard as I coach the varsity team.
When coaching gets in your blood, Joe, it does not leave easy. That I'll tell you.
Yep. I wish all the coaches would have the same test as I have. I call it the grocery store test. You know, when you're coming down the aisle in the grocery store and you see somebody coming at you,
Yeah.
do you want the kid to lower his head and say, hey, coach, or do you want him to get a big smile and come up and give you a hug and ask you how you've been? So that's what I always try to do with these kids.
I have so many good memories with kids, I'll tell you. I miss it. I do.
Yeah, well, you positively impacted my life.
And we're certainly glad you have your program and your history, Joe, beside football. I mean, your civic duties, you Speaker of the House, and I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about you. I'll be honest. It's just people love you.
That's very nice to say, and it's the lessons I learned from my parents and coaches. You treat other people with respect, you respect their time, you respect who they are, and treat people how you want to be treated.
Yes.
Now, I'm not always perfect, right? We all have, tempers at times, and you do things, but the biggest words I've ever learned were, hey, Larry, I'm sorry. Sorry I acted like that. And you got to be okay to say that.
Yeah, we, I know my poor wife puts up with me, I'll tell you. I can't tell you how many times in the middle of a football game I'll get up, I'll start screaming at the TV. And
But that's passion too, right? So it's all right.
But
I will tell you that I look over all the time and I see you seated at the games and I see you into it, and it makes me feel special.
I couldn't believe one game, someone came up to me, said, Larry, they're taping this game, and we hearing you. The speaker must be too close. We're hearing you yelling.
That's okay. Every show needs a little color commentary, and if you're going to offer that, that's awesome.
And I got the biggest kick out of that. I said, have I said anything bad? She said, not yet.
I'm sure if you did, your wife would have got you right with a little elbow to the ribs.
She won't put up with that.
Yeah.
She said, oh, no, you're not going to.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So now you've been around the Berlin football program. Should we say how many years? It's 60 years.
Oh, easy, yes.
Right? What has your perception of the program been over the years?
Well, it's been nothing but good, I'll tell you. It all started with Coach P.
One of the most amazing people in the world.
That's where, I mean, I go back to my days. Yes, I had great fun. I had great coaches, Coach Fabian, Coach Nucio. Lenny Marizzi is still alive today. He's the only one that's left. Yeah. And we had it was great, but I have to say, Berlin's program took a U-turn when Coach P started coaching. Yeah. That I'll tell you.
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yep.
You know what I remember the most about Coach P, though, is all the time you'd walk up and you'd always greet him. You say, hello, Coach P, how are you? It was always terrific.
Yes.
Terrific.
Yeah, bubbly and oddly enough, you're going to laugh at this. In our day, when we played and you got injured, sometime you had to go to the orthopedic. And at the time was Dr. Waskowitz in New Britain. Who do I meet? I'm in high school. They used to drain my knee on a regular basis. You know what that meant.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Well,
Been through it.
It was not fun. But anyway, who would I meet there? Coach P was playing First Central
That's right.
at the time.
Yep.
Which I didn't realize until later on.
He went to East Hartford High, right?
Yes,
and then over to
Penny.
Central.
Yeah, Penny, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Small world.
Small world.
But it is, I think he does deserve the credit because if you look at Berlin football over the last 40 years, we're in the top 10 in winning percentage. We've put a good product out on the
yes.
field and had very good teams.
Joe, I have to tell you, this year I went to a couple of games away. Being handicapped, I need help sometime. And a lot of towns, no problem, Larry, we'll take you in the golf cart. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And I was so impressed where a couple of the schools would say to me, you guys got your team, they're like disciplined.
Yeah.
They said, we don't see that. They're like a disciplined team.
Yeah.
And to me, they said, wow.
Yeah. And that's what's important. If I went and coached anywhere else, I think I'd be disappointed because the caliber of kids that we have is just amazing. They really want to please you as a coach. They want to please the administration. They want to please the fans, and they're willing to put in the work to do it.
And they're good kids. I get such a kick out of them. I kid Ryan Lavender. I call him Big Guy, and he's mad at me because when he was a little kid, well, not a little, younger. Yeah. When he was playing baseball, I used to call him Moose. And the kids started razzing him. They would call him Moose.
He's going to be a special player.
Oh, he will be.
He came in this year, and he started varsity as our middle linebacker. 2 games in, he's handing out the coaches the stats on what the team is doing for the upcoming week on every single play. Amazing kid.
Oh, yeah, very, very smart. And oddly enough, he's a hell of a baseball player, too. Wow.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He's a pitcher, left-handed
pitcher.
But I like how he throws the football.
Yeah, he does. So we actually put him in for the Hail Mary set because he was the only one that could throw it 60 yards in the air, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't use it at all this year, but he was ready to do it if we needed him.
Yeah. It's the times I have spent with these kids in both sports were special, Joe. Believe me.
Yeah, and it's good for me as a coach. I have a Modulo on my roster, right?
Yeah.
He's going to be a varsity player. I was coached by you. I played with your son.
Hey, actually, Joe, I didn't mention to you at one point your son Ryan played for us, but he was in a minor league and he got brought up.
Yep.
But I actually coached him for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
I do
that.
remember. Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yep. How can I forget that?
Yeah. So the kids are they grown now? Or?
They're grown. I'm a grandfather already.
Wow.
So my son Michael has a daughter, Jolie. He and his wife, Carrie. Ryan's doing really well, and Katie's going to be a senior this year. So I am officially out of Berlin High School. And it's so funny because I went to Willard School, to McGee, to the high school. My kids all followed the exact same path.
Yeah, it's special. Yeah, I hard to believe for me. I went to Willard School the first year it opened up.
Wow.
And my wife.
Yeah.
And
it looks different now.
Oh, it does. And of course, we never went to junior high. When we were in junior high school, we went to the high school.
Really?
Now tell me that was to go to high school when you're 7th grade?
Talk about culture shock.
Oh, my dear.
I've enjoyed this. This is great.
Joe, I wish we could do this every week.
Yeah, I'll come back anytime you want.
At some point, you should do a show with your coaches and have some fun.
All right.
How many assistants do you have?
I'm very lucky. I have almost 12 coaches, and a lot of them are volunteers. They do it on their own time, no compensation. They do it to get out there because they love the game and be with the kids.
Good for them.
We're going to have a great year next year. I've already predicted state championship. So now I'm on the record. I'm putting it out there.
Boy.
It's state championship or bust.
I just want to be in the game.
All right, done.
I just want to be in the game. Yeah.
Well, you'll be there.
Yeah, Joe, I can't tell you how great it was to see you here today.
It's always my pleasure.
And, I hope we're going to do this again at some point. And when time comes, you look over that 50-yard line, you'll see us.
Oh, yeah.
You know that.
I do.
Right?
And I always shout out Larry Legend.
My, yeah, I love that name. And, your sisters too are, I mean, they're great people.
Yeah.
Shelley and Sherry, great
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And I can't wait, you know, the kicker there, Eli,
Yeah,
he's going to grow a little bit more, and
we'll work with him.
he's going to be good,
Yep.
let me tell you.
It'll be fun to watch. That's
Absolutely.
why we come back year after year.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming to the end of our show. Joe, we want to thank you and wish you all the luck in the world, and we will be there behind you. Trust me. I want to thank the viewers for watching today. And just remember, you heard it here on Racing Action today. We will be in the championship game next year
We will be.
in Class M. correct?
Class M will be in the state championship.
Thank you, Joe.
No problem. Thank you,
And-
Coach.
And good night. Thank you. Program is brought to you in part by Just Results Weight Loss Center.
Nutmeg TV has been providing community television for over 30 years. We needed some studio upgrades, and Ion Bank believed in us. As a result of Ion Bank's financial help, we've been able to help others move on in a field that's difficult to get experience in. You're working with partners who understand who you are, and Ion Bank does that. They walk with us every day. It's community banking at its best.
I'm your host, Kurt Barwis. Today, I have a very special guest, Dr. Andrew Lynn.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Veterans Corner. My name's Chuck Wooden.
Decision for ourselves for this week if we want to be made well.
Hi, welcome to the crack of dawn. It's Dawn Lombardi. I'm starting the painting. It's going to be the cliffs with some water. Love it.
He took me on the sets of Lost in Space, Batman.
Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time.